The mic's on.
No, because I was like, it kicked in just then, so we're live. The AC kicked on just
I know, right?
as we were talking. All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Natasha.
I'm David. Sorry, I did not realize we were live. My bad.
That's what I was saying. I was saying like the moment
as soon as we started, the AC came on.
Yeah, the AC kicked on. So
okay, all right. I am David. This is Tasha. Welcome to our chat, our conversation, our discussion about our co-op lives as we have transitioned from the yard of an HBCU to the studios, the entertainment studios in Southern California and LA. So I guess we can get rolling with the PowerPoint. This is going to be pretty light. We're going to just walk it through and talk to you guys about our experience in those aspects, and then we'll keep on moving, and hopefully we'll have some time for some Q&A at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into it. There we go. All right. Oops.
So, from the yard to the studio, our Black Geek love story. Hold on. Sorry.
Oh, good. You can see the comments. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oops. Intros.
Wow, that's very true. Like this meme is life. Being a game developer and just hearing, talking about games, and people are just like, nope, I skipped all the cutscenes. I skipped everything.
So
yeah,
we do not abide that in this house. So we're gonna go ahead and share with you guys. Okay.
So I'm Natasha Lee. I go by Love Usagi online. That's my kind of my avatar, my character that I give to all my spaces. Be it the art world, game world. I am a military brat. I've lived multiple places around the U.S. and my fave anime is Sailor Moon, hence the love Usagi, Usagi Tsukino. So I've been a gamer since birth, and again, going from the yard to the studio, being a fan of games since I was a young child. I feel like I came out of the womb with a controller. My family, we would pretty much do games. Like as our family time, we did board games and all of that, but it's just like that was a lot of what we spent our time doing. And so I didn't realize that I could actually go into game development as a career. Most of the time growing up, because I didn't see anyone that was Black or a Black woman in that game space when I watched a lot of how it's made or behind the scenes for a lot of game development.
Very true. So again, David Hooker. I go by Hooktastic as my handle, right? That's 2 zeros. You'll hear that and see that throughout our presentation. This is my little avatar that I drew. She colored and made it look good, but I started it. So there's that. Anyway, I am Ninja Turtles obsessed, of course. That was my first desired career path. When I found out that people couldn't actually be that, I was a little disappointed. But
you have to be a mutant turtle.
I mean, don't limit me, but okay. And then I got heavily into band in high school. I was a super band geek, uber band geek, and all the folks who are familiar with me know that. And then player 2 to Love Usagi's player 1. She is definitely bigger in the games world than I was. I tended to play games when I was co-op, when I was playing with friends, when I was playing like GoldenEye with buddies and stuff. I think what really got me really invested in gaming started when I saw my older brother playing games. My older brother was into Star Wars and a bunch of stuff. Pretty much all of the stuff that he was into geeky wise, I was like, oh, that's cool. Let me get in on all that too. But then later on, I really got into this stuff after, and then as we sort of blossomed
into a relationship.
So
why?
Want to get into? Yeah, I know you weren't expecting that. I set up the deck, y'all, so she's gonna be surprised by some of these images.
All these throwbacks.
This is, I believe, this is probably the first picture we took together.
This is the first picture that we're in together. Yeah. I didn't think we took it together.
Well, we didn't, at all. But this is the first instance
where someone caught us on film together.
Party unlocked. Okay, yes. So this is my dorm room in the famed Suite 200 at this point, and we'll talk about that if there's any questions later. I'm sure I know there was a session about that in the HBCU console. Yeah. If you want to know more, we can talk about that later. But right here is the dorm room, and basically, again, we were just interested in similar things, right? We were interested in gaming, interested in, Star Wars, comics, anime, manga.
And that's pretty much, like our first meeting is not in Suite 200. It's actually in my suite. So I actually missed out. Bernie!
Hey!
Okay, sorry about that.
I didn't know we get the...
Yeah, but so we missed out. I actually missed out on freshman orientation week. I was on campus for the STEM program for the summertime, and, issues happen, things come up. I actually didn't have my housing fell through, like right before school started. So I actually missed that first week of freshman orientation. When I finally got to move in to my dorm room, everybody knew David Hooker. And I'm just like, I was here all summer and I never heard of this dude before. Like, who is David Hooker? And so I'm just in my suite one day, and one of my other suite mates, she tells me that, he's going to come up there to either talk, or he's swinging by the suite or whatever. So I'm just kind of like, okay, whatever. And in my room, I don't know if he has any pictures of my setup, but we had a desk that was provided in our dorm that had a removable bookcase. So I had my bookcase sitting on the floor that had my PS2 games. Jesus. My PS2 games. I had a row of mangas. I had multiple Game Boy SP games. Oh, geez. Those
you had your PSP out?
SP.
No, your PSP?
Oh yeah, I think I had my SP, my PSP out at the time too. But I had all these anime posters on my walls. I had video game character cutouts and whatnot around my suite. And so, I mean, my suite mate was the best. She is the best. She's amazing. But also outside of that, most people weren't really into, all the anime and the manga that I had. And because I think I brought my manga sets too.
Yeah, you did.
And my anime. Mm-hmm. And so he came into my room while looking for someone else and just was like, whoa, you got all these games, you should come hang out at our suite. We also play games, and I had a rack of games that people didn't have. Mm-hmm. So it was pretty much like, yo, come chill down in Suite 200. And after that, we were inseparable.
I guess you could say inseparable. That would probably be the best term to put it. Yeah, I came into the room and I was just like, all right, I like this. This is good. It's like, I like where your head's at. Let's go hang out. It's kind of like those little kids, like, we should be friends. Okay. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to get into what really sort of, I guess, solidified our connection was that we got into, well, I don't say we, Natasha introduced me to, but before this, I was playing MMORPG, which is a massively multiplayer online game. So thousands of people could be playing. Yeah, and I was playing City of Heroes. And she introduced me. She was like, "Hey,
I was like, that's old school. Okay, people are beyond that now.
Check out this Warcraft game." And I was like, "What is this, man? I don't know if I want to do this. It's got a bunch of kind of Lord of the Rings.
That's not the first though. It's not the first. Star Wars Online, Star Wars Galaxies.
Oh yeah, you did bring Star Wars Galaxies.
Star Wars Galaxies was actually the first MMO that I tried to bring into the suite.
We played a little bit. and they gave my roommate at the time, we were playing, and somebody gave him a speeder just off the break just because they wanted
the
to.
community of Star Wars Galaxy is beyond anything. It's the most positive, fulfilling, helpful community I've ever been a part of. But for an online game.
Yeah. So then we got into World of Warcraft, and so when I was introduced to it,
art.
and this is kind of why I put this picture up, just because I sort of fell in love with some of the the tertiary pieces of the game, right? And I was just like, this is great. And I think the main reason why I bring this up is that we sort of were able to stay connected when we left off of campus over the summer, or we were able to, just build community through this game, right? Like we had a guild, we had people that we connected and contacted with over and over, and this was back in 2000.
Several people in the suite joined World of Warcraft. A lot of our other friends joined World of Warcraft to play with us, and again, like you said, it kept us together. So, even when you think about college, a lot of people come from different states to, or different countries to go to a college. And then during breaks, they may leave. But while we were on our breaks, we were still able to basically be with each other. We were with each other at all times on and off campus through World of Warcraft.
And what it did too, it also fueled our love and interest for this industry, right? Like the storytelling elements of this game were, really good. Like they started introducing more and more cutscenes. They started introducing more and more like just cinematics. And the original cinematic for the game was just amazing. So I was just like, wow, I have to play this now. And it was that sort of spoke to us. I think before we knew exactly what we wanted to do, we knew it had to have something to do with like that storytelling and that
entertainment.
That investment that you get. Like you feel like you get this escape, that you're in this new world and that you're able to do these things. And so it stayed a staple on and off of our lives for like.
We are still relapsing. I just checked our account and we got
still paying for that account.
Yep.
So we do sternly believe that the couple that games together stays together. So before we sort of get into this slide, I do want to talk a little bit about what happened after the fact, right? So after we got together and after we, after I had graduated and after we actually started living together, like right after that year.
And we pretty much lived together throughout all our time on campus. And then after school, we got an apartment together almost immediately.
Yeah. So when we got that apartment, both of us sort of took work, not necessarily directly in our fields of interest. We're both working for basically Parks and Rec, and more so in that recreation space, not necessarily. And I was doing arts and education, right? So I was working as a children's theater teacher, which rolled into becoming a full-time teacher. And then, I taught Head Start for a number of years, about 3 years. Tasha,
and then I continued to work for Parks and Rec after after school. I started as a art counselor for the summertime, and then it rolled into a administrative assistant position that I just stayed with Parks and Rec, working in Maryland. And I mean, I enjoyed what I did. I actually was in a art space because I wanted to be surrounded by the arts. I wanted to be involved in arts. And so working at a actual cultural arts center was something that I thought like, wow, yeah, I could do this. I could see this as a career going forward. But in my mind, it still wasn't taking me to where I wanted to go.
And the same can be said about what I was doing. Like, I love teaching. I love the aspect of like unlocking these sort of young minds into these things that they could do, right? And be able to see what you can do. The issue was scope, and the issue was resources, right? Like, we just couldn't impact the number of people that we wanted to impact, and couldn't grow in the same way that we wanted to grow, that we would be able to if we really hunkered down and got serious about like that entertainment industry, because we know there's lucrative opportunities there. And that was just something that we had, discussed. And this, I guess it was the winter of 2013. There was that last blizzard, and we were like, this is a sign.
No. It was 2012. It was, oh yeah, you're right. The winter of 2013 was in like February.
Right, because we were like snowed in, trying to get out to go to our friends' like Super Bowl party, and I was like, never again. But
it's not even that though. It was honestly, we had a break-in,
and we did,
at our apartment. We had a horrible break-in. It shook me to my core.
The signs were there that it was time.
And then, again, then we had that horrible, like, it wasn't the year of the winter vortex. I really believe that was 2014, but right before that year, 2013, everything was just snowed in. We were like snowed in for days, and it was just kind of like, I did this thing where I'm not normally a hop on to what people do, but I would normally see people lifting up their windshield wipers when it snowed. And at first I was just like, why would I do that? Because once I turn my car on, they'll loosen up and whatever. So I actually lifted up my windshield wipers before the snow came, because I was like, fine, I'll try it and see what it does. It snowed so bad it broke our windshield wipers. Snapped them. I didn't even think that was possible, just because of the way I thought the snow would accumulate around them. Broke our, and it was just like thing after thing after thing. And it's just like, we're not completely satisfied in our jobs that we're doing right now. We have so much more that we want to do, and it just felt like sign after sign. It was like, you know what? We need to move. We need to go pursue our dreams outside of our comfort area.
So, I mean, we packed it up and drove across country. So we started, in Maryland. We drove down to see our family before we left out. Family in Virginia for her, and then North Carolina for me, and then Virginia again, or Kentucky to see your dad. And then, we just sort of pieced together the plan as we were going. We were like, we'll get over there. We had some housing that we had lined up. We had some people who were moving back over to East Coast. So we figured,
again, one of our college friends.
Yeah.
And, just still having those connections, I feel like, that you build when you're at a HBCU.
Yeah. We talked to a bunch of our friends who had already transplanted, to see about like costs and things like that. So the surprising things that we did find out was, one, that the cost of living translation wasn't much different from where we work, because we're so close to, DC, being in Prince George's County. It's not necessary. There are certain spots where it's more affordable, but comparatively, right, you can find the same things in the greater LA area. So it may take a little more travel, but you're still going to get to the spaces that you want to be able to get to. Then we figured out, how to make it happen, packed up the car, figured out a way to stuff my big screen TV and my flat screen in there. And we had our computers.
Yeah, we packed up
stuffed everything.
Yeah, we packed up our towers, we put our the PlayStation and Xbox in like super padded suitcases.
Oh yeah. And we made that trip, right? And so we drove across country, and immediately one of the things we realized was that there's so much that we had not seen, so much that we hadn't gotten to experience. And so it was great finally getting the opportunity to see those things, and then also be able to take that back to, again, the HBCU sort of energy, right? That speaks to going and learning and growing and then giving back something, right? So now we're able to share those experiences with students, with that family, as it were, right? So we got to California, and our housing fell through.
We were homeless for a bit.
Here's the new challenge approaching. So we got there, and we were like, oh, we're kind of a little bit homeless, y'all.
Which it made me feel like, man, this is a true California story. Like,
so we had to double up our efforts, and ended up, using Craigslist and prayers, and found a space in Santa Clarita, which is in the northernmost part of LA County, right? It's the last area before it gets out of Castade's not that county.
I don't know.
But then we found work in the similar capacities that we had done when we were in Maryland.
Working for Parks and Rec in California. So it was like a good transition, because we didn't have jobs lined up, nothing. We literally just packed up our car and said that, well, we have a goal and a plan that we want to reach. We do have some ideas of connections to get us to those places, but we didn't have the full way to actualize it. But we knew that at least we can get jobs in fields that we were already in, as a starter. And
we had those skill sets, right? Like, I had the education skill set to use as we were transitioning, and so did Natasha. So we had those skills, and we were able to apply them fairly quickly and get spaces, get opportunities, and then we were able to actually, I was working like 3 part-time jobs at the time. Tasha, you think you have 1 and then 2 at the certain point.
Yeah, it was fluctuating.
Bouncing between 2 jobs as we were just sort of pooling that. And the thing I wanted to impress upon folks is that We definitely worked together. We definitely worked as a couple. We definitely sort of supported one another in the sense that, you know, if I was able to make a little bit more for something and Natasha was taking a class or something or doing something like that. And conversely, when I started taking my master's program courses, she was able to double down on her work. So I was
because we both had periods of just unemployment, just straight up. I don't have a job right now, or either both of us, like David worked on his master's, I was working on game art at Full Sail. So it was just kind of like in tandem. We were like, oh, now somebody's working, now someone's not because they're doing school. Oh, now somebody's working, now someone's not because they're doing school. And it was just kind of flip-flopping back and forth a little bit too, until we really settled on what could we actually achieve while we were out here.
But one of the beautiful things that we ran into, and a great networking opportunity came through with the Game Developers Conference. So you can speak to how we found out about it and everything, and then we can get into that a little bit.
So again, I wasn't very aware that I could get a job in games, but my sister was actually going to school in Ringling, Virginia Ringling, Virginia. She's from Virginia, but she was going to Ringling in Sarasota, Florida for her game design degree. And at the time, she was like the summer of 2013 or March of 2013. She was like, you know, I'm going to this conference. I think it'd be really cool if you went. And at the time, we were just about to move out to California. So we were like, we don't have the money to attend this conference. And so she said that we could volunteer as conference associates and be able to attend the conference that way. We would still do volunteer hours, and then we could attend panels because she had a number of her classmates do the same thing. So come 2014, we're like, look, let's apply. We're going to go to the Game Developers Conference. She was also going again with her school because her school actually sent students out there. So again, that's another thing that if you do go to a school, you know, that you're pursuing either tech or game art, animation, whatever, petition your department to see if they can sponsor students to go to conferences like the Game Developers Conference. And so we signed up for the Game Developers Conference. I am super straight A, got to do all my work on time, got to start it off. I had my letter submitted like 2 days maybe after the admissions opened.
Yeah.
And David did not. He submitted his on the last day.
Yeah, I did. So for the conference, they take volunteers, and they only take maybe 100 plus new people, and then there's some veteran conference associates. You'll hear say CAs, so we were literally up against like hundreds of applications, almost
thousands.
1,000.
It's like 1,500 people, I think.
Well, now
that rotate
in our first. Well, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so it was a lot of applications that went in, and so yeah, I put in mine last minute because I'm what you call a procrastinator. But
fierce.
That wordsmithing worked out for me because I did get accepted for the program, and Tasha was on the waiting list.
I did not get accepted. So I was devastated. I was just like, this is my thing. Like, I want to do the games thing. Why did I not get accepted? And I understand that it was because, again, they get like so many applications for this program, and you need to be meeting certain criteria. And I was like early on the wait list too, like right after I found out that I didn't get initially accepted. I jumped right on the wait list.
And so there's another takeaway right there, right? Like, because Natasha put in early, hers was one of the first ones to get looked at to be able to be on that top of that wait list, as opposed to like if I'd have put in mine and it didn't go through, I'd have probably been at the bottom of the barrel of that waiting list. So, you know, there's that execution plus that hard work plus the effort and things like that. All of those are important caveats to getting these things that you're trying to strive for. And then the other note is that though Tasha didn't get it, I did not see that as a no.
He didn't see that as a no. I'm just like, it's a no. I can't go. We can't afford it. Like, we literally, it was like, well, he could go and then I'll just buy a ticket for the conference. No, the tickets for the conference are like thousands of dollars. Like, they're upwards of $800 for some of the packets that they have. So it's like, there's no way we can afford this.
I did a GoFundMe. I was like, this is Tasha. She's really trying to get into games.
please help
she
us.
didn't get in. This is how much
we're
the
trying
conference
to, like,
costs.
you
These are
know,
the things
get a
you want to
ticket,
do.
also pay for a room up there and a ride up there as well.
So we ended up getting a good amount of support from, you know, family, relatives, friends. Shout out to all those folks who did that, because
exactly, 'cause we're here.
at that point we were able to at least get the hotel room. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to go up. You know, I'm going to be doing the conference. So I know we didn't make enough in the campaign to get the ticket, but you could at least be there, and then like I can just share everything that happens.
And again, I'm like panicked, like, no, you can't share things.
So we get on the mega bus.
We take a mega bus up to
and we're
San
going
Francisco,
up, and I'm like, look,
8 hours.
Just, I know that you're not technically on, but call them, you know, call the coordinators and be like, look.
I didn't call. You did? I didn't call. David emailed the head of the CAs, the wonderful head of the CAs, and just told him that, look, we're on our way up here. You know, Natasha applied, but she's on the waiting list. You know, is there any possibility that there's a spot open?
If anything happens, she's available.
Right,
because
we're on the way. We were like in San Jose at the time, and he gets pinged right back, and they're like, "Yep, she can join." We saw her on the wait list. We had someone drop out this morning because of a family emergency.
Well, they got sick. He got sick.
No, he had. Well, I thought it was his family emergency was sick. Yeah. So, and I got in off of a whim, off of me trying so hard not to go. Like, even after we had drove out to California, I was too terrified to like go up to San Francisco because I already had a no.
So the bullet there, always allow yourself. Oh, I lost the cursor. Mm-hmm. Don't give yourself a no is something that's really big for me. It's big in the HBCU world. You know, folks have gone through financial aid before. You know what I'm talking about. You trying to get them papers and trying to graduate. You need to make sure that you crossed your T's and dotted your I's and done everything in your power that you can in order to get to that step. Because if you don't, you'll always regret, well, maybe there could have been something else I could have done. Mm-hmm. So that was something that I was just like, nah, we gonna get you in here. If I got to sneak you into my backpack and we come into the cut, whatever. So we ended up going. It was great. This is the group of the volunteer staff for this
And this conference. Is probably not everyone, because not everyone's able to stay that last day
for the photos.
But it's usually upwards of 400 people.
And we can just say that, you know, out of this group, we were able to, and I'm leaving it up here a little bit so y'all can see if you can find us. It's going to be difficult.
You're the easiest person to find.
I know, right? Because again, where I put myself in the T of success, y'all, right? But when we went there, we got this great amount of networking, because we didn't realize this wasn't just students or people who were trying to get into the industry. Like, this is people who have 20, 30-year veterans of the games or entertainment, along all the way back until people who are like students who it's their first year and they're trying to, you know, figure out what this world is. And so we were able to network with this huge pool of talent and resource that started really revealing to us in this space, especially in California, the importance and the necessity of networking. So there we go.
So there's David, front and center,
and there's Tasha with the pink circle, in case you had trouble seeing it. One of the keynotes that we were given or that we had noticed is like, be memorable. I don't know if you guys can notice all of like the funky hats that people have, or like the cool sunglasses, or just outfits that some people have, but things that make you memorable, things that make you stand out, were things that we've always been we've seen now lean into, where people who want to get into these spaces have to do something more than just the status quo, right? Everybody's already doing the status quo. So you've got to put in plus extra or plus ultra.
Ultra.
So yeah, this group really started our networking, and we've been going back to this conference year after year after year
until 2020.
And
we would have had 7 consecutive years.
Would have been 7 years.
You know,
but
and even what
I wanted to get into your opportunity.
Okay. And so after we were able to attend the game developers conference, I got a lot of positive feedback about me trying to get into the industry. And something that I always kind of thought about was being QA for video games. I play a lot of games, and I've always provided feedback whenever I've hit an issue. I participated in a number of beta and alpha tests whenever they were issued, stress tests, anything that could get me working with the game as early as possible. I attempted to do so. And so people were just like, yo, you should apply to be QA at a studio. And so
And by QA?
In QA, that is quality assurance. So it's going through, working with the developers to make sure things that go into the game are working as intended. Can also be providing feedback and balancing, just making sure to find issues, document those issues, and provide ways to recreate those issues so that they can be fixed. Yes. Yes. And so I was able to, and it didn't happen right away. I made sure to constantly, because it wasn't until 2016 that I got my first industry job. And I had also gotten a lot of feedback from a lot of the other QA dev support CA of my CA family, in order to make sure I have tailored my resume as it needs to be, highlighting things that I had done. And also when I was in the interview, the interviewer noted that, oh, you worked as a CA, at the Game Developers Conference. And they were like, that was something that really stood out to us, because I also documented that, as well as things I had done working with games outside of a professional level. And that right there, I think, pulled my resume off the stack. And
similarly, we were going to the conference. This was 2016 for her. In 2017, I believe it was. When did you meet Drew?
I was going to say that.
Yeah.
So that, being a CA, got my resume pulled out the stack. And then while we were back at GDC, I was attending a Black in Gaming event, and I met an awesome friend named Drew, and he was working at Disney at the time. And we just kind of talked a little bit. We hung out, and then it happened to be like maybe later that year or the following year, in 2018, right?
Into 2017.
End of 2017, my studio had been doing an art show. And so he was at that art show. So we met Drew. I introduced Drew to David, and Drew spoke on David's behalf to get him a QA job working for Disney.
So again, we talk about that networking. We talk about the opportunities that exist, and putting yourself out there, right? Like, if we hadn't gone to the Black in Gaming session, we would have never been connected with folks. Tasha would have never really met Drew. And so there's that whole caveat that we're like, there's a level of trying to fit in where your Blackness, you don't know whether it's a benefit or a hindrance in certain scenarios. So you go to this game conference and you see this opportunity, and it's like, I don't know if I'm trying to put myself out there like that. But then you find this like community that is looking out for you, right? Mm-hmm. Like Drew is one of the people also coming from HBCU. Mm-hmm. All right. Yep. Hey, Hampton. But he was like, hey, I'm going to speak on this guy's behalf. Let me know when you put your resume in, so mm-hmm. I can say something, so I can be there. And that is the kind of energy that people need to see, that push you over the bar against other, competition.
Because we all, I feel like optimistically, we're all awesome. We all want to get these jobs, but it's also making sure that you are going to fit in to that creative or cultural place as well once you start working at a place. So to have an individual speak for you, it helps tenfold. And as much as it seems like, you should just be able to get in with what you got, 10,000 people are applying for these jobs. Right, thousands and thousands and thousands of people are applying for these jobs. So, you want to make connections, and it may not lead to a job tomorrow. It may not lead to a job a year later. But again, like, my job didn't come until 2 years after trying to get into the game industry. And then David came a year after mine with someone that I had met. And it's just like making sure you just build connections with people. And because Drew and I just met as friends. So it wasn't like I was looking for a job for David, or David was looking for a job from Drew. It just happened to come up naturally that at that time there was a space available.
Mm-hmm. So we're gonna pause for a second. We're gonna check our move list. This is something I am notorious for, uh, but when we're talking about networking, we're talking about our opportunities, we're talking about putting ourselves out there, right? And so those elements are our moves, right? And so when we were able to start to put those moves together and actually create a combo, we were able to move in those spaces, right? So I took all of the lessons, right, sort of learned from the HBCU environment of just exploring and reaching out and being connected to folks, right? And then I infused that to my time on Disney's campus, right? So every day I was meeting new people. At least I had at least one new like coffee chat every week, and then I was finding out what my skill set really would look like in the games sphere. Not realizing that was just going to help me in Disney in general, right? So I was learning about production because personally, I always want to solve people's problems, right? And so I'm always like, well, if we set it up this way and try to do it like that and like this, probably get it. And so every year in the game developers conference, they were like, man, David, you'd be pretty good as a producer. So I did their homework. I found out what that was about, what that life was like. And so then I started shadowing people at Disney who were doing production, who were producers. I talked to people in the game spaces. And then so when it came time for the interview or when the opportunity arose, I was ready, and I was also top of mind. One of the best pieces of advice I can give folks is to actually talk to your HR partner early and tell them what your goal is, right? If your end goal is to be, is to be Walt Disney at the end of the day, then say, hey, my end goal is to be Walt Disney, or, whoever, like if I want to be Todd Howard, or, I want to own my own studio at some point, go ahead and let them know. It's not like they're gonna be like, oh, well, there's gonna be competition, let's get rid of them. That's not the case. What they're gonna do is recognize that you have a track, and by helping you, they help themselves, right? Because they're gonna see roles that come up and they're like, okay, this person might fit for this. Makes it easier on me. I already know the person. I can send them a quality candidate. Let's keep it going. So we keep that relationship solid. And that's really what ended up pushing me to get to the point where I got the opportunity I had, because I interviewed for a game producer. It did not work out because it was an associate role and they needed a more senior role, so they dropped that one. But in the process, the hiring manager was like, well, we got this other product manager role. You should check that out. I looked at the product manager. It was with a bunch of people who had worked in games before. The director who was interviewing, she was like, yes, new studios. The hiring manager, or the director who was doing the hiring, she worked with the SVP that I met in like the second month that I came there. So we were able to chat about that. So it was really do your homework, y'all.
Yeah, it's just like constantly just try to reach out to people to just build that connection. Again, let people know, because it may be a year, it may be a month, that people be like, I talked to so-and-so about this, and this is something that they were interested in, and they may bring it around back to you, just because you took time to tell people and you took the time to build a connection with them.
Similarly, this lady got several opportunities in the QA space because of those same things. One, doing good at her job, right? But then two, being one of those people at the conference over and over, people like to work with. They were like, oh, I got a role coming up, or I got a space with QA. I want you. And that was actually good for her to be able to negotiate contractually, right? Because, well, I got these 2-3 companies looking at me. What y'all really about? And so that's another way that it just benefits you by just making sure that you are bringing forth your whole self, that part of yourself that's more than just the job.
Yeah. That's the combos. And just always making sure to talk about what you do. That is not something that I am very good at. I was always taught to be very humble. Boastfulness and pridefulness is something you should avoid. But again, everybody is just doing their job. So if they see you just doing your job, they're not going to think it's any special than what you have been doing. And so again, when we look at the events that surround,
go ahead.
Like George Floyd, Black Lives Matter protests, and I know that not every workspace is comfortable bringing up those topics, but if you have, the opportunity to do so, because it can help benefit your company culture, whatever project you may be working on. It could have some benefit.
Now, I did want to take a little bit of a sidestep to talk about fact versus fiction. Some of the things about working in the studio. Obviously, there's NDAs. These are real. There are things we cannot discuss and can't talk about. The things we can talk about, I'm going to rapid fire some questions with Tasha because she works in the traditional AAA video game space, whereas I work with the Walt Disney Company. Yeah, so they're more so a publisher, but then they also have studios, which is another facet, and so they're more of a conglomerate. They don't fit in that world very well. When I was on the games, though, some of these things did apply. First question: do you have long hours?
I have appropriate hours. What does that mean?
There's this thing called crunch, and I'm just curious if that is an actual thing in the industry. You don't have to speak for yourself. You can speak for in general.
I think crunch, it's listed as the something that happens in the game industry, but I honestly feel like it's something that happens everywhere. We were just watching a day in the life of a ramen shop.
And that man was working 12 hours.
12 hours. And I was just like, we do. Yeah. It is emphasized a lot that crunch is like a game industry specific thing, and I don't think that is necessarily the case. But I do think that because people are talking about it more, it is being addressed. And I will say that I have not had like these horror stories that we have heard about crunch in studios, thankfully, because where I work, we do. It is a constant battle of work-life balance, and it's also like some people that just don't want to put down. Just don't want to put down their work.
Don't put down the stick, so to speak, right? Yeah. It's people who are impassioned about this work that they're doing, and that is great, but then it does hinder our ability to properly gauge how much effort, time, and work goes into building these products for folks.
But I do think I think that it's necessary as an industry and as all industries to push back against that type of culture. For sure, if it's negatively impacting you, causing anxiety or burnout, like it's unacceptable.
Snacks.
Lots of snacks. There are lots of snacks in the studios. I have worked at 3 studios, or we'll give or take a couple. And they're either get meals provided or you have just a full kitchen full of food.
Swag.
Lots of swag. I would say the most amount of swag I got was working Call of Duty, Infinity Ward. They love swag. So yeah, I pretty much have like drawers of shirts that are just like game studio shirts.
You said swag, we said snacks. Do you just play games all day?
I do not just play games all day. That is definitely a misconception with QA in general. I do a lot of documentation and writing up of issues. So there's either tasks that we perform where it's, running through whatever build we have to see if it is stable. And then it is documenting whatever issues were occurred, and then making sure to create test cases, because we work, with other groups. So it's like creating test cases for people to test, working with the UX UI, which is user interface, user experience. So making sure that there are builds for that, so that we're getting constant feedback on the development process. And but then and then I would say too, that QA can be totally monotonous. There are days where I'm just checking to make sure I don't clip into things. So
I would say on my side, when I was in QA, it was maybe a 20%, 30% where you actually in the game. And then the rest of the time you were like filling out the check marks of like, yes, it works. No, it doesn't. Especially in cert testing. So I was doing certifications. So these were legal requirements and company requirements that if these didn't pass, the game couldn't launch or it couldn't release that next the next patch, right? So I was doing a lot of patch updates and things, and it was just like, oh, you're missing this one thing that you need. We can't pass it, and I would barely even really touch the game outside of like the titles, the menus, and things like that. So it definitely depends on what you're working on, how much of like actual gaming you get done. Yeah,
Playtime.
playing games. Despite the fact that that lady was like, "Oh, you guys just play games all day," when we was looking at houses.
Yeah.
I forget about that lady.
Yeah, you did.
Anyway, so I just wanted to give a little
Mhm.
sidebar to some of those things. And then I want to talk about combo chaining. Okay, so what happens when you start to merge all of these things? Plus, you get that industry understanding and things like that, and you start speaking out and get vocal. You get opportunities to be a part of things that you didn't expect before. And so, one of the things that was really awesome was a critical hit that we were able to see where Natasha was able to work on what now?
Spider-Man Miles Morales.
All right, now let's just give them a quick snapshot of what this is.
So again, because of the, not necessarily because of things or because I was QA and I got to speak up about the art that I wanted to see in the game. I had another Insomniac speak up on my behalf, James Ham, saying that, we're looking to put some more art in the game. And he spoke on my behalf. So again, like making sure that you do showcase your talents that you have within your jobs, or if you do work at a studio, if you do know programming, if you know how to draw, model, texture, tell people, because I would not have had the opportunity to create murals for Miles Morales if I hadn't have shared that with people. Because, even though I'm doing QA, I got to do art for the game, and I got to do art that was a centerpiece in one point in the game. So, and this was my kind of feel, like what I think that I would see around New York City, how I was feeling at the time, especially last summer, that was very difficult. So I took it upon myself to create this Black Lives Matter, something that I wanted to really represent what, you would think you would see in New York City. Even when we're around LA, we see tons of like art, because that's a part of the community. Like when people pass away, or when there are celebrations, or community members who, make it big, they get murals and, you know, elaborate paintings and things done for them in the city. So I think that this is just a call out too for me as a Black woman to have something like this, in a game about a Black character, a Black and Latino character.
And so this is sort of, for me, it speaks to two things. One is like, oh, look at it, look at it working. But it's also the culmination of all of those pieces, right? Speaking out, networking, doing your due diligence in your capacity, but then also still staying passionate about the things that you're passionate about. Because Natasha won't necessarily like break into a space, but people will be able to talk about the things that she does and bring her, bring her into it because of that kind of approach. I thought that that was just a really great sort of lesson learned in this whole, process of us getting to the points that we're at and moving forward. So for the next level, the things that we want to really get into and start moving into are similar to somebody had mentioned it, opportunities to launch your own ideas. So that would be here. I didn't have the animation. My bad. It's supposed to pop all of them up,
Okay.
so people could stay with us. So one of the things that we were going to be working on is a strategy guide, a relationship strategy guide, right? Similar to those Prima strategy guides that you used to see. We're going to be writing this. We've actually started writing already, and we have our, our basic outline for our book, and we're going to just share with people what we've learned along this process as a relationship. Then we also had, go ahead, you have your.
I again, I'm an artist, so I design T-shirts, logos. I'm also going to be starting on a comic that I've been working on for years, but just fleshing out now that I've become, more stable in my job. Even though it fluctuates when I'm busy, but now I have found time to be able to dedicate to creating my own art that I want to represent me and also speak to my experience as a Black woman and to get more representation in that geek culture.
We have Geek Side, which is another site that we own, and that we have like articles, blogs, and conversations about just that geekiness, the cons. It doesn't necessarily focus solely on Afrocentric things, but us being Black people, we have that perspective that we're able to offer in addition to some of the things that we are looking at that we love, like our DBZs and our Sailor Moons and what have you. And then I'll talk about Dear Allies, and then this is for your Twitch. So Dear Allies, over the summer, there was just a lot of focus on what can we do from a lot of folks, a lot of allies, and I felt like it would be great to help infuse them with the action steps, action items, or tools that they can use, or education that they can have to then be able to directly combat and deal with systemic oppression. So that's what that resource is. It's just it's primarily Facebook Live videos that we do every week, every other week, where we discuss a different facet of these issues that are going on and how people can attack them and address them. And then there's like online resources that we provide to folks. So it's really simple, but if you know people who are asking you, what can I do? You can tell them, go to this website, do the things that are listed on the website, go to this Facebook page and do the things that they are saying, because those are action items. And then last but not least, this is a QR code. So if you got your phone handy, you can go to this one and follow Tasha's Twitch page, her Love Usagi page, where she'll be playing and gaming,
So
all the things.
I'm not working.
When she's not working,
then I play games.
And yeah, that's pretty much it. So any questions, anything like that? We got 10 minutes, so we went over by a little bit, but we got some time for any questions, any feedback. And if not, that's cool too. But we just want to say thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for stopping by. Check us out, and yeah, any questions you have, we'll be happy to answer. If we can. If not, we'll find the answers.
Right.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank you, Tomika. Thank you, Doctor. And I'm going to.
So if you want to follow us on any social medias, I am at Love Usagi on Instagram, Twitch, Facebook.
I know I didn't. That's a typo.
You typoed my email.
Her email is the same as.
Yeah, my email is the same. But yeah, if you want to check us out, reach out to us. Oh, Christina.
Awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, we're totally down for any questions you might have, or if you want to chat
and learn more about what it is that we do or things like that. I don't know what happens next with a bunch of stuff for Disney, so I can't help there.
Yeah.
Brandy is now on Disney Plus, so whoever that was, please stop yelling at me.
Cinderella.
Yeah. So yeah, that's all we got.
Yeah, so we hope you have an awesome time.
Yes. Please enjoy the rest of the con. That virtual space is pretty cool. You can go into it, and it's very similar to what we did at Afrotech with the avatars and everything. So
yeah, have virtual avatars and hang out with people.
Do that karaoke life.
All right.
Okay. Well, that looks good. There's no questions, so we will. We will wrap up. I don't know if we're supposed to sit here.
I can't dance.